Okay, Michael, you've seen the video breaking down a little bit of your movement versus Patrick Reed, who again is phenomenal at pitching and chipping a golf ball. I don't think the changes for you are going to be that big and that drastic. I think it'll be pretty easy to implement pretty quickly. It's one of the reasons I like wedge play. So I want to break down again, just as I'm moving around, differences between, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, differences between your move, differences between what we see better pitchers and chippers of the golf ball do, specifically talking about sort of the trail arm and how the right hand and right arm operate. In short game, we definitely want one of the hands to be dominant. So assuming you're a right-handed golfer playing, your right hand is your dominant one, this is very much in control of the pitching and chipping movement, along with a little bit of upper body rotation. Right now it looks like your lower body is driving a lot of downswing with sort of just a bending and folding of the right arm. So I just want to go over again sort of your movement versus Patrick's and what those specific differences are. So right now, if I take normal setup here and say, okay, what's Michael do? If I break down how your arm moves a little bit more piece by piece, we'd say the elbow bends to 90 degrees to the side of my body, and I sort of hinge the right hand a little bit. That's really what we see out of your movement is this shaft is very vertical and the leading edge is still turned in, okay? This is an exaggerated position, but if I needed to hit my golf ball from here, the only options I have are to throw that downward and inward and try and turn out of the way so I can pop it back out. So I'm going to be very, very steep with the leading edge, not have a lot of control of the direction of my golf ball, probably a lot of fast ones that are low left, probably a few weak right ones, and always digging a lot of turf. So the movement again, we've got folding to 90, hinge of the right hand. That's more or less where we're at right now. That shoots down and around as we're trying to get the golf ball in the air. What we see out of Patrick and what we see out of a lot more of our better chippers and pitchers of the golf ball, this shoulder operates a little differently. Yeah, there's a little bit of elbow bend, a very little, but then watch what happens. If I take this arm, I'm going to remove the club for a second, and that would be external shoulder rotation. So from this view, right, I'm opening that shoulder, rotating that shoulder externally, okay, with a little bit of forearm rotation. You can see that. External movement, tiny bit of forearm rotation. There's my little bit of elbow bend. External rotation, tiny bit of forearm rotation. It's exactly where we see Patrick and a lot of really good pitchers and chippers end up at the end of backstroke. What that does, right, that little bit of forearm rotation and external shoulder movement exposes the bounce. If we said those two pieces at rest, if I open the forearm a little bit and rotate the shoulder, I've got the back of the club on the ground if I don't have any of the little bit of elbow bend to get it up. There's the pieces that go into really good trail arm movement for pitchers and chippers. Because at that point, all I have to do then is sort of unload that right hand, and I can slide that club on the ground towards my target with the loft pointed at the target and continuing that direction. So if we were to hit two shots and go, all right, 90 degrees elbow bend, hinge up, to hit that, I missed it. Because I've got to go so down and around, okay? Again, we see that on video where the club's working this way tremendously. If I said, okay, a little bit of elbow bend, external shoulder rotation with a little bit of forearm rotation. From there, I can slide that club in what I feel like is under the ball because the bounce is able to hit the ground, right? So, external shoulder rotation, boom, door kind of opening this way with a little bit of forearm rotation. That just exposes more bounce and a little bit of loft to soften my shot up, right? I can slide that right under. And we see what we see out of Patrick and what we see out of most of our good pitchers and chippers. That loft and the club are still tracking towards the target a little bit. It's almost like tossing a ball. If I were going to toss this ball towards my target, it would never involve bending 90 degrees and then hinging the wrist. there would be a swing back of the right arm as the shoulder rotates the same way we're talking about, and I toss it to my target much more this way instead of bending 90 and having to go down with it so much. So the nuts and bolts of you changing your movement and being able to slide the bounce on the ground are really all right arm. We need to start seeing the club, what you're going to feel like, work lower and behind us a little bit. We do that through rotating the arm and the shoulder externally, with a little bit of forearm rotation. We're exactly where we see good pitchers and chippers of the ball. So I actually want you to hit a lot of one-handed pitches that will be small, and I want you to feel like your initial feel may be that you're actually trying to slide it under the ball and actually hit up on it. Okay, so softer surfaces, the back of the club is gliding the ground, versus softer surfaces when we're lean and pulling this down and where our heel is digging in. That's where we bounce in and dig all the dirt out, versus being able to just slide the club under the ball. That's more your thought. You're not really trying to make ball first contact. This is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Your best pitchers and chippers aren't actually trying to hit the ball first. That creates a tremendous amount of angle of attack, de-lofted condition of the club, and we're generally getting heel into the ground. We're trying to hit ball first. Your best pitchers and chippers, okay, are trying to put the club on the ground a little early and slide it under the ball. So that visual change and that mental task changes. Well, if I need to hit down on it to get good contact, up would make sense so that I can hit down and hit ball first. We're not necessarily trying to hit ball first. I want us to feel like we can slide the club under the ball. And we see that geometry change of the club lengthens towards the target versus getting pulled around the corner so hard. Same movement, watch the lower body. We talked about this in your video. When I slide it in, I don't have any big pivot that you have. It's up and vertical, and you're going down and around to try and hit your golf ball. Your best pitchers and chippers, it's all just towards the target. There's not an active pivot here, okay? So the change for your movement is really all based on your backstroke structure. I would set up slightly open face and maybe slightly open to target initially to really help you feel the club working much more towards the target through the shot. Again, sliding it in and working upward towards the target versus feeling like it has to go downward and inward to hit the ball. Start extreme, okay? Start nearly facing the target, 45 degrees open, and see if you can start pitching it towards the target. So we start seeing the trail arm working much more towards the target instead of ever folding up and working downward and around. So start exaggerated, then slowly work yourself back into, you might be 5 or 10 degrees open, a little bit of open face, and then our movement. We're going to have a little forearm rotation, shoulder's going to go external. That puts our club behind us with a little bounce exposed, and we can slide it right in. Great for greenside. That can be the go-to play for greenside. If it doesn't need to be a really super soft shot, go down and loft. Grab your sand wedge, grab your gap wedge. Don't necessarily change technique, change loft, and be able to strike the ground the same way and deliver the bounce to the club the same every time. Quick recap. 90 degrees of bend, hinge up, that's where we're at now. That's got downward and inward and digging written all over it. Smidge of elbow bend, external rotation and forearm rotation, where Patrick Reed is. Slide it into the target every time. Work on that, let me know how it goes, Michael.